Well, I agree with the 2013 Jason Chaffetz. In the 2013, Donald Trump, who said that you needed to get congressional authorization before going to war. Much like Barack Obama did the same thing when he was running for office. He said that you needed to get congressional authorization before instigating a war, or an act of war, or going to initiating military hostilities. I mean, both parties have been hypocrites in these issues. I look back to Barack Obama's presidency as a great disappointment. I think progressives were very upset because he promised to get all the troops and end the war in Afghanistan. He promised so many things. And we still have 2 AUMFs on the books that this administration is using as authorization to do things in Syria and Iraq.
You talk about the AUMF, and Rick is someone who is at the State Department. There is a real question of legality here, and I saw John McCain, someone today, I think it was John McCain, tried to say that the 2001 AUMF covers the strikes against Assad. Now, there's a lot the AUMF might cover,
but that's how the Obama administration interpreted it also.
Against Assad?
Basically, anything that we were going to do, we were using that AUMF to justify those actions.
But just to be clear, that AUMF was drafted and passed after we were struck by Al-Qaeda in 9/11 for associated forces. That's the sort of key phrase.
Subsequent legislation, so people were using that as the fig leaf to be able to do it.
Well, I'm glad you used that phrase, just because, I mean, Assad is...
You like my phrase?
Assad is literally bombing Al-Qaeda. So, do we have the congressman back? Congressman Gallego?
I'm here.
Oh, great. So I want to ask you this question about authorization. I mean, what do you think of the idea that you served, I believe, in Iraq, and you're a veteran yourself. What do you think about the need for authorization of some kind? What do you think about the idea that the 2001 AUMF would cover airstrikes against Assad?
Certainly not against Assad. I do believe that there is enough connection between ISIS and Al-Qaeda, Mesopotamia and Al-Qaeda, who I fought in Al-Anbar, that justifies it. But if you're going to be going after Assad, the Assad regime, Hezbollah, or any of its allies, you need to come back to Congress. There is no nexus there. It makes very little sense. We need to know what the plan is. We need to know where this is going before this truly escalates to the point beyond the control, I think, of where any of us want to go.
You know, the point the congressman made there about associated forces is that, right? That ISIS, there's a plausible way of interpreting associated forces there. With Assad, it's very, it's much more difficult.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about the kind of next step idea, right? And particularly the sort of ways in which, I'm really curious as someone who was outside the State Department came into it, like the ways in which becoming president and being part of the sort of institutional decision-making structure for the most powerful nation on earth changes your calculus.
Well, I mean, part of it is you get mugged by reality in terms of what happens out there. I do think the process of how that works, and we've heard about that, the DC-PC process actually doesn't get you to the best decisions, and I suspect that President Obama thought that as well. He approached it from a very small C conservative idea, which is, will me doing something make this situation worse? And in the case of Syria, which was incredibly complex, he always came out on the side, yes, it's going to make things worse. And indeed it might. That is the problem. And as you said, we do not have a plan B right now. There is no plan for regime change. The vacuum has attracted the worst, most awful terrorist groups in there. We don't have the moderate opposition anymore. There are not a lot of good choices, and that was how Obama looked at it.
You don't seem to have a plan A.
Right.
Well, I mean, you look at what we're looking at. I mean, when you look at these military situations, you need a military plan, you need a goal, and you need an exit strategy, and it doesn't appear that we have any of those lined up. Everybody is engaging in some feel-good politics. Yes, we had a strike, and if it's successful, the American people will probably be applauding the president for it, but ultimately, if this starts a long-term engagement in Syria, the American people aren't going to like it. They don't like the fact that we still have troops in Afghanistan, troops in Iraq. It's unbelievable, and it's something that a war-weary American public don't like.
Brian's point there, Congressman, what do you think of that, particularly in terms of what your constituents want to see and what you're going to say to them when you go home for recess? You're probably home now, I would imagine, about what your task as their representative is in guiding this policy going forward.
Look, my constituents were obviously horrified by the attack that occurred by the Assad regime on these innocent children and families. At the same time, they're weary of war. They saw what the mistakes happened that got us into the Iraq War, and I think they don't want to see us trip ourselves into another quagmire. I mean, right now we are bombing both the people that are fighting Assad, and we're bombing Assad, who's bombing some of the people that we're supporting. Where's this going to go? How does this all end? There's too many sides being played. And again, why did we bomb? Right now, that airfield that we bombed still was launching attacks on rebel-held areas. So it wasn't a military strategic reason why we actually hit it. It was a symbolic reason. And if that was the case, then why didn't we go through diplomatic channels first, and then after exhausting all those, then going to a military option? And I think one of my fears is that Trump, when given the military option, will always take that first. And I don't think that's responsible leadership. Diplomacy requires all levels of tools, and not just always looking at the world as an answer. The answer to every problem is to bomb it.
All right, Congressman Ruben Gallego, Brian Darling, Rich Stengel here in New York. Thank you all. Still to come, first, he was reportedly irked by the president.